Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about reflexive verbs. Okay, from my last video where I was talking about the vocabulary in chapter 5, you'll remember that I talked about reflexive verbs. These are them. They typically have a say on the end of them. Let me do this. Okay, they typically have a say on the end of them, and this say, let me go back. It means you use it to say himself, herself, myself, etc. Because what reflexive verbs do is they tell you basically what it is the subject of the sentence and the object of the sentence are the same person. So let me show you what that means. So if you look here, we've got Isabel se peina versus Isabel peina a su hermana. Okay, in both of these scenarios, there's a person who's doing the combing and there's a person whose hair is being combed. In the second scenario, we've got Isabel who's doing the combing, Isabel peina, and whose hair is being combed is su hermana, her sister. Her sister is the direct object of the sentence, or that is the object of the sentence. Okay, and then the next one, or the one prior to that, we've got Isabel se peina. Isabel is the one still doing the combing, but this time she's also the one who's being combed. And that little say, that little reflexive pronoun lets us know that Isabel, our subject, is also our object. She's also the one being combed. So whenever you want to say that you're doing something to yourself, you're going to have to use a reflexive pronoun, okay? And these are them right here. Okay, so if you want to say you do something to yours, if I say I comb my hair, well, basically, okay, let me do it like this. All right, we've got peinarse, right, is the verb that we were using before. Okay, so we've got peinarse. All right, now if I want to say I comb my hair, all right, I'm still going to write peinarse, okay? What I suggest that you do is go ahead and get rid of the say. Forget about it for a minute. Or maybe even just, let's go back. Let's not exit out. Let's just move it. Okay, let's take this say. We're just going to move it over here and we're going to deal with it in a minute. So now I've got peinar. Well, that's typically, now peinar looks like a verb that we're more used to. Okay, so if I want to conjugate it, what then I would do is I'm supposed to, when I conjugate verbs, is take off the ending, either AR, ER, or IR. So I'm going to take off the AR ending here, and I'm just dealing now with my root, which is pain. All right. So if it's yo as the subject, I'm supposed to just add an O to pain, and that says that I'm doing that to myself. So I'd have yo peino, which would work if I am combing, like I have small children, so if I'm combing my son's hair, it would be yo peino a mi hijo, okay? But that's not the case. I want to say I'm combing myself, okay? So I have to, if you are doing something to yourself, you have to have a reflexive pronoun. These are them over here, and they are going to match who the subject is. So if the subject is yo, then you want the reflexive pronoun that matches yo. So what you would want is right here. If it's yo, you're going to want may. Okay? Now the question is, where does it go? If you'll notice up here, the say went before the verb. So let's see here. With infinitives, reflexive pronouns are either attached infinitives. Wait a minute, up here. As with object pronouns, reflexive pronouns are placed immediately before conjugated verbs. All right, so that's what I've got here as a conjugated verb. So I'm going to use may, and it should go right in between. Okay, so I'm going to change say to may. All right, And where I want my me to go within my sentence is right in front of peino. Yo me peino. That's how I say I comb my hair. Okay. If I wanted to say you comb your hair, I would do the same thing. Okay, tu peinarse. I would move my say off to the side over here. I would conjugate. Okay, and if it's you who's doing the combing and you're combing yourself, I'm gonna have to change my say to te. Okay, and it's gonna go in front because again, reflexive pronouns are placed immediately before conjugated verbs. Okay, so that's how you would do it, tu te peinas. Okay, so let's do some practice. If I find the right one. Okay, so mis amigos y yo, so let's talk about what each of these mean. We've got maquillarse, lavarse, levantarse, sentirse. So maquillarse is to put on makeup, lavarse is to wash, levantarse is to get up, sentirse is to feel. You can also use reflexives when you talk about an emotion like, I feel sad or I feel happy. Quitarse is to take off, acostarse is to lay down. Ponerse is to put on. You can use that like vestirse, like me pongo una camisa or me pongo los pantalones. You can also use ponerse to say that you become or you start to feel a certain way, like me pongo enojada or me pongo triste, like something made you become sad. Reírse to laugh, secarse to dry, cepillarse to brush, and afeitarse to shave. So, mis amigos y yo somos diferentes. Yo siempre me duermo temprano, pero ellos blank tarde. Since we already used I always fall asleep early, we're probably going to use for them I fall asleep late. So the verb that we would have is dormirse, okay? So what we want to do is we want to get rid of the se for a moment and deal with dormir. Dormir is an O-T-U-E, so I'm going to go back over here. Okay, and if it's ellos, if that's who's falling asleep, I always fall asleep early, but they fall asleep late. If it's they is the subject, you're going to take this off, making an en, but then who is falling asleep? They are. You're going to pick the reflexive pronoun that matches your subject. In this case, it is se, and it's supposed to go in front of your conjugated verb. So that's how you do it. Se duermen. Después de ducharse, Marta el pelo con el secador. So after showering, Marta's going to dry her hair with the hair dryer. So we're going to put secarse. Again, get rid of the se for a moment. Who is drying themselves? It's Marta. So we would make it seca. And we want to say Marta's our subject, which is the same as she. So she is drying herself, which would be se. And since this is a conjugated verb, I'm going to put it in front. Voy a blancar el pelo con mi champú favorito. So I'm going to wash my hair with my favorite shampoo. Lavarse. Okay. Now I've got a situation I didn't have before. I'm going to wash my hair with my favorite shampoo. When you have a helping verb, you have to leave your second verb in its infinitive form. So I'm going to get rid of my say for a minute. can I conjugate lavar here? Well, I shouldn't conjugate it because I already have boy conjugated. So let's, okay, so let me show you. If you look here, with infinitives, reflexive pronouns are either attached to the infinitives or placed in front of the conjugated verbs. So let's go back and look at our example. Okay, so here we could either put our reflexive pronoun in front of the boy or we can attach it to lavar. Well, given that our blank, we're supposed to be writing an answer only in the blank, we should attach it, okay? And now they're two separate things. You've got a reflexive pronoun and it's attached to an infinitive. The infinitive I'm not changing, but I'm still going to need to change my reflexive pronoun to match my subject. Well, who is my subject? Who is it that's going to be washing hair with their favorite shampoo? I am. I'm the subject, so I'm going to be washing myself. So I need to make this may, and it goes here. However, if this didn't, if this answer block didn't limit me, I could also have written my answer like this. Okay, either way would be fine. Let's do another one that's like that. Down here it says, Marta y yo tenemos que blank muy temprano mañana porque tenemos que estar en el trabajo a las 6 de la mañana. So Marta y yo tenemos que, if we've got to be at work early, we're probably going to have to get up early. Marta y yo tenemos que mañana porque tenemos a las 6 de la mañana. We're going to go ahead and do get up early, which would be levantarse. Okay. Levantarse. Okay, so let's get rid of our se really quickly. Whenever you have tener que, you're supposed to leave the verb that comes after expressing what you have to do. You're supposed to leave it in its infinitive form. Okay, but we still need a reflexive pronoun because it's Marta and I who are going to be getting ourselves up early. Okay, so we want our reflexive pronoun to match our subject. Well, if it's Marta and I who are going to be getting up early, it's the same thing as Marta and I. We are going to be getting ourselves up early. Ourselves is nos, so we change that say to nos, and it goes right here because it's in the block. However, we could, if it needs to look a little bit more like it's attached. Okay, if we weren't limited by where they put the answers, you know, they gave us a block, so they want us to put the answers in that block. If we weren't limited by that, you could have also said, Marta y yo nos tenemos que levantar. Da, 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 da. So either way would be okay.